With me today is Craig Calder, and he is a former EY partner, author, artist, and the founder of Think Clear Group, a consulting practice that supports leaders and teams to develop expert problem solving cultures and capabilities. And we are going to be chatting about Craig's new book, Problem Hunter, which I know so many people will be interested in. It's all about problem solving and how to be a valued problem hunter. So, welcome, Craig.
Thank you so much, Julie. It's wonderful to be here.
Thank you. Now, your book opens with a deeply personal story, and it shaped your approach to problem solving. Can you share a little bit about that with our audience, please?
Sure, Julie. It was quite a few years ago now. I was in my early 40s and I thought I had life figured out. I had a great job. I was married. I had two wonderful kids. I had a home that I really loved being in. And then, when in the space of a year, I was fired from my job, my marriage broke down, and I had to leave a home that I love living in. And so what I thought was an amazing situation that I was in actually turned out to be pretty horrendous. And it was in the aftermath of that, after the dust settled and I was able to sort of live life again, I started to ask some really hard questions of myself. And that was, okay, what did I have or what did I not have that was contributing to that situation? And what could I do differently and learn? And in that little soul searching moment, something hit me really hard. Not physically, but mentally, it hit me really hard. And that was I realized that I was good at spotting problems and I was really good at telling other people how to solve them. As a management consultant, I mean, it sounds like a great gig. You get into really complex problems in a business and you find a way for them to fix it. I never actually got to solve problems. I actually got to observe them, tell other people how to do it, but I never did the solving myself. And what I'd realized is for about 5 or 6 years before my life sort of fell apart, I actually hadn't done anything different. I was pretty much cruising. I was in a very big comfort zone. And what I'd realized is the part of your mind that you access to solve problems, not just spot them, had completely atrophied. And I was using avoidance and I was using excuse to not solve the problems in my work life and my home life. And when I realized that, I was thinking, you know what? I need to do something about this. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever exercised a lot. I used to do a lot of running and swimming, and it's like doing that for a while and you get fit. And then you stop for a while. And in my case, I'd stopped solving problems for years and years and years, and probably never so because of the work I was doing. And then all of a sudden you try and run 10 Ks again or swim 2 kilometers. Your body goes, excuse me, absolutely not, because you're not fit again. Your mind works in a similar way. It absolutely needs those problems to keep mentally fit, keep mentally growing, and to keep healthy. So when I realized that, I actually started my own journey to solve more problems, not just spot them. That's why I founded the company that I've got now. That's why I chose to be a professional artist, which is to access the creative side of problem solving. You know, if someone comes to you and say, hey, I've got a blank wall, can you fill it with some color? And I want to tell this story. And when I see it, I want to feel this emotion. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And you have to access different parts of your mind and skills in order to do that. And so I've sort of blended all those things together, and that's how I got into the situation I'm in. And the reason for the book was, as I could have spent 10 years finding my own path to be better at solving problems in my own life, I then thought, you know what, let me learn from as many people as I can who are really good at it, and can I find a way to simplify and help others who may have found themselves in a similar spot to me, hopefully not, but similar spot, can they find a way to use problems to advance their career? And if you're a leader of a team, to create an amazing force of people that can do amazing things in the business or the team you lead. And that's kind of what led me to the book that I've got now.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing your story. And that resistance or that running away from problem, I think will resonate with a lot of people. And that plays out in so many different ways, which I'm sure you're going to get to.
And you know, you don't realize you're doing it. It's your mind kind of trying to protect itself. So imagine you haven't exercised for ages and you've got these heavy bags in the back of your car, and you pull one out and all of a sudden your back goes out and you go, oh, gee, that's awful. And then next time, maybe a week later, your mind goes, I can't lift that bag because last time I'm not strong enough, so I'll get someone else to do it for me. So what you do is you avoid fixing the problem inside you and get someone else to do it, when actually the problem to solve is let's get fit again.
Yeah.
Let's strengthen our back. And so your mind is actually a really clever tool. It avoids things that it doesn't want to do, but actually it's really good for it. So we know exercise is good for us. We know eating healthy is good for us, but oftentimes we go, you know what? No, I can't be bothered. We've got, in my experience now and what I've learned, we've got to treat our mind exactly the same way as we do our diet and we do exercise.
Yeah.
It needs to be exercised and treated.
Absolutely. I so agree. And as I mentioned before, it's, this is one of the biggest complaints that I hear from leaders is that people come to me with problems and there's no solution. So I'm really keen for you to talk about, tell us what a problem hunter actually is and what sets them apart from traditional problem solvers and why companies need them now more than ever.
Okay. Well, it's actually pretty straightforward for someone to be given a problem by someone else and then to solve it. If you're given the time, the resources, and any expertise you need, it's pretty easy to do what someone asks you to do. And that's valuable to a certain extent. However, what sets people apart is if you can proactively find problems that no one else has found, if you can then do the work to either solve it yourself or say, you know what, we need to solve this, let's get a group of people together to do that. They're the kind of people that are most valued in an organization. And I'll give you two examples why. So a good friend of mine, his name's Matt Gribble. He is the founder and owner of an executive search firm called One Executive. And when I was having a chat to him as part of the research for the book, what I asked him was, okay, when you're hiring leaders like CEOs and direct reports of CEOs, what's the most important attribute that you get asked to hire for?
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, there's a thing that I call agility, which is the ability of a leader to either spot a problem before it happens or spot an opportunity and then align an organization, its people, resources, to either capture that opportunity or to solve and avoid the problem. That's what people want. And as the economy changes quickly and as it adapts to this AI revolution that's happening, the ability to spot and move an organization to adapt and change to meet those needs faster than before is something that boards are looking for. And if you're a private equity investor, you really want that in a leader. The number one factor that influences promotion decisions is actually taking initiative. The TED organization did a global survey and they asked people, right, what is the main factors that influences promotion? And it was taking initiative was twice as much of an influence as just doing a good job. And so initiative really is just spotting problems that others don't see and taking action to solve them. So it's not shying away from them, it's actually doing something about it. And so you do that more often and all of a sudden you become a lot more valuable. So if you've got two people to choose from with a promotion decision, one person just does what they're told and does it well, and another person does what they're told and well, and they find things that need solving and they do the work to do it, you stand out way more. And so, in fact, solving problems and learning how to do it proactively accelerates your career. There's so much evidence to support that.
Yeah.
And if you're a leader of a team and you scale that up, so everyone is thinking that and acting that way, there is so much research now that shows that your business and your team will outperform significantly. For example, McKinsey did a study of 175 companies, 375,000 people, and what they found was that companies that had a problem-solving culture and capability, like a strong one, outperform their peers by 6 times over 3 years.
Wow.
And if you think about it, if you've got more people that are looking to try and find ways to make things better and attack the market more and they're looking after each other more, and they're engaged with the business and how it can be better, you know what? It just multiplies and goes faster.
Absolutely.
You're more agile. And the
Yeah.
funny thing is, it's the best workplaces to work in.
100%, because everyone's engaged, like you say, they're collaborating,
Yeah.
their collective intelligence is used and implemented, which I think, and that makes people feel really valued, which is the number one thing that people are looking for as well.
Yeah, and if you know that you're doing something of value and it's
Yeah.
actually challenged you, and you know what, you start it and you go, I didn't think I could actually do this, and then you do it, how good do you feel? And you want to do more of it. So
Yeah.
finding challenges, finding problems in a business that scare the pants off you a little bit are actually good for you. Because once
Yes.
you move through that path of solving it, it's like this adrenaline rush at the end going, you know what, I did that. I can do more now. And
Mm.
that's what makes you more engaged, and it's what fuels your career. Now, another
Yes.
anecdote on that. So, as part of the research for the book, I dived into adult education and adult development. And there's two professors at Harvard, Robert Keegan and Lisa Leahy, and they're experts in adult development. And what they found in their research was that overwork isn't the main cause of burnout. The main cause,
Really?
no, the main cause of burnout is going too long without development. So, if you go 2 years in a job where what you're doing is pretty much the same over and over without too much new challenge, you will start to feel the effects of burnout. And it's not because you're overworking, it's because your mind is turning off. And what burnout is in that context is your brain saying, I need to grow again, I need to develop again, because if I don't, I'm going to feel unsafe. And if I feel
Mm.
unsafe, I don't love that feeling. And so that's what burnout is there for, saying, I feel unsafe.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Now, just going back to the problem solving, and everyone's, really involved and they're solving, finding lots of
Yeah,
problems
yeah.
to solve, but not all problems are equal, right? So we really have to make sure that the problems that people are solving or that they're investing time in are the right ones. So how do we go about that and that people aren't just treating a symptom?
Yeah, that is a really good point. In fact, the number one mistake people make when they try and solve any problem is they solve the wrong one.
Yeah.
And it's an easy trap to get into, because if you haven't seen something before, the first thing you want to do is get rid of that feeling of I don't know what to do, and so you rush to try and find a path to have a solution. And in fact, if you can just stay in that moment of uncertainty for a little bit, you end up solving the right problem. And I'll tell you, there's 3 steps you can take to make sure you solve the right problem every time. So
Perfect.
the first step is describe the problem in the most simple and effective way. Now, it might sound simple, it might sound easy, but most people complicate problems much more than they need to. And there's really only 4 kinds of problems. And they revolve around 2 words: something you have and something you do. So I'll give you the 4 kinds of problems. So first one is that it's something you have that you don't want. For example, you might have 3,000 square meters of excess warehouse space and you don't want it. That's a problem.
Yeah.
The second kind of problem is I want to have something, but I don't. An example of that is I'm Elon Musk and I want a rocket that is returns to Earth and I don't have to discard it every time that I fire it into space. And the reason for that, it's so much cheaper. It's 50% cheaper every time they launch a rocket by having it to return. So he wants to have something that he doesn't. Simplify. I want a rocket that returns. I don't want to just ditch it into the ocean. The third kind of problem is I'm doing something I don't want to do. It might be I'm taking 10 steps to do something, but I want to do it in 5. And the last kind of problem is the opposite of that, which is I want to do something, but I can't. Like I want to be able to build my customers within 15 days instead of 30. So really problems are one of those 4 things, but you might have groups of them together. But if you can describe a problem in the most simple way possible, that way you understand it, and however you're communicating it to someone else, they will get quickly. I'll give you an example. You might have, you walk into a basketball stadium and you see a puddle of water on the floor. You go, we have water on the floor, that's a problem. Everyone gets that. So the first step is describe it in the most simple terms, either using the words have or do. I have something I don't want, or I don't have something I don't have something that I really want, and then I'm doing something I don't want to do, or I want to do something that I can't. They're the 4 kinds of problems.
Yeah.
Second thing you do is you ask yourself, does this really matter? And there's 4 things to think about when you're trying to figure that out. The first one's the easiest. Does it cost money? Does it lose me money? Or does it impact value in some way? Right? If you've got assets in your business, does it impact anything that I've got that I really value? Easiest one to do, and most people get that. But when you're doing that, don't just look at a problem today. Think of how long it might exist and what could be the accumulated cost. Because as soon as you project what a problem might look like over a few years, all of a sudden it becomes something you want to solve now.
Yeah.
So the second thing to think about is, does it affect time in any way? It's an instantly perishable resource. Does it take longer than we need to? Can we shorten the amount of time? Does it annoy our customers because we're not getting there fast enough? What could it do to impact time? The third one is status. So if you're a business that relies on, for example, a license to operate, if anything could affect the status of that license, that could be a big deal. Or it could be, it's really important to have customer ratings 4.5 stars out of 5. If something that you found could impact that rating and therefore reduce sales later on or impact your reputation, that could be something that you might need to act on. And the last thing to think about, if a problem matters, is well-being, which is, could it affect people? Could it affect our environment? Could it affect the animals, the fauna that we've got, all those sort of things? Could it impact any of those? So they're the 4. Does it impact value, time, status, and well-being? So that's the second step. Number 1, describe the problem in the simplest terms. Number 2, figure out if it matters. And the third step, which is really important, is figure out what's causing it. And to do that, you usually ask why 5 times to get to the bottom of why something's happening. And the reason why finding out the cause of a problem is so important is it helps you figure out how you can solve it properly. And I'll give you an example. Let's use the basketball stadium. So you rock up to a basketball stadium, you've got a puddle of water on the floor, and you've looked at it and go, okay, we've got a puddle of water on the floor, and we know that's not good because if a player steps on it when they're running, they're going to fall over and they're going to hurt themselves. Okay, we've got to solve the problem. The next thing you ask is, well, what's causing it? You might say, well, maybe someone spilled a drink. You ask around, has anyone seen that? No, I don't know. And if all you did was that and you mopped up the water and you came back next week and there was another puddle of water, you go, maybe there's another reason for this. So you might look up and go, oh, there is a crack in the ceiling and I can see that water is flowing in. Okay. But you might stop there and you might repair the roof. But then you notice that a couple of months later, there's another puddle of water in the same spot. You go, well, why is that? Well, there's a big tree outside with lots of dead branches, and every time the wind blows, a branch falls on this skylight that gets broken that we repaired, and now we have to repair it again. So the ultimate cause of the problem is a big-ass tree that needs to be removed from the side of the building. So finding the ultimate cause of a problem helps you solve it quicker, more effectively, and cheaply.
Awesome. That's such a good process.
Yeah, do those 3 things and you always solve the right problem.
I love it. Now, one of the more memorable concepts, this is my favorite, I don't know why, it tickled my funny bone, but it's very important, is especially considering what you said at the very start of our conversation. So one of the most memorable concepts in the book is the Turd observer. And now, can you share what that means with the listeners and why it's a trap that so many people fall into?
Yeah, sure. It's actually my favorite heading, chapter heading of all of the chapters. It's a good story. So as part of the research for the book, I spoke to a number of my clients to try and get their sense of what could help people become better at solving problems in business. And This client of mine, his name's Andrew Henry. He was a very experienced CEO of large infrastructure services business. And what I really liked about him, super commercially smart, really experienced, and he did not mince his words. Like if he thought something, you heard it pretty quick. And so we started our interview, and the first question I asked struck gold. I said to him, look, tell me what frustrates you the most about the people that work for you when it comes to solving problems. And without flinching, right? Without flinching, he said in a deadpan voice, the thing that annoys me the most is when people rock up, come into my office, sit down with a great grin on their face and say, right, I've got a problem I need to tell you about. And they describe it in eloquent detail. All the things that are going wrong with part of the business or the reason the problem exists. And they just leave it on his desk. And he said, it's like they're coming in with a turd and chucking it on my desk, and then they walk away without having thought at all about how it could be solved or done any of the thinking that might go into that. And so they walk out thinking that they've done a great job, but really, they've just left a pile of, shit on my desk that I now have to deal with. And that is really annoying.
Mm.
And after this conversation, and I was cracking up when he was telling me this, I said to him afterwards, I said, I've thought about that. And what about we have a chapter in the book called Turd Observing Stinks? Because what you're describing is a behavior that people think is valuable,
Yeah.
but is actually the opposite. So that's how the turd observing came up. And I dug into this behavior. I thought, is this common or not? And you know what? It really is. And I saw this video of former US President Barack Obama, and he was giving a talk to a journalist about how to give advice to young people about what could they do in their work life to have a great career. And he said, I've seen at every level of organization people who are incredibly good at describing a problem, telling me about why it can't be solved or what can't be done in eloquent detail. But he said, what I want most and what I value most is that people come in saying, I'll take care of that. Even if it's a small problem, a big problem, I want people that can come in and say, I'll take care of that. And it's exactly what Andrew was saying. Even if it might be a big, scary problem, the people that stand out most are the ones that say, I got this.
Yeah.
You may not know how you got it, but you might say, hey, I don't know how I'm going to do this just yet, but I might need a bit of help. But if you take the initiative to try and solve it, that's what people value most.
Yes.
And it's really, really common.
Yes. It's so common. Like I said to you before, the biggest complaint I get from leaders at the moment is that they're so sick of people coming to them with problems, but there's nothing. So they're turd observers.
Yeah, and there's a really good psychological reason for that. And it's actually our brain trying to help protect us. So on the one hand, the part of your brain that says, I can spot problems and I can understand them is working, but it doesn't take up a lot of brain power to do that. It's the solving bit that takes up a lot of the brain power. So your brain's saying, right, I need problems, I can see them, I'm trying to be valuable, I'll do what I think I can, but it's a mistaken belief. And the reason why people do that is that they haven't done enough solving of the problems to build up that strength and that expertise that they know that they'll need to work their way through the difficulty that always comes from solving something you haven't done before. And so what it is, it's an indicator that someone hasn't done enough work in their job of solving hard problems. And so if anyone listening to this finds themselves in that situation, it's like going to the doctor and having a blood pressure test and it's too high. Right, okay, you need to do something to fix that. And the way to fix it, go find some problems to work on.
Yes. So let's talk about that.
Right.
How do we become a problem hunter? And, what's a simple shift? Because sometimes people are stuck in that habit of doing what they do. So what's a simple shift that they can make in their mindset or in their approach that they can become this sought after, highly, glorified person within the organization?
Yeah, look, it may sound big, but it's actually a series of little tiny steps, which makes it actually really easy. So as part of the writing of the book, I was trying to learn about, for those people who are really good at solving problems, what goes on in their mind and how do they feel about problems. Because what you think and what you feel about them dictate what you then do. So the first thing people can do is they can start to widen their perspective of problems. Now, we normally have a bias. Like you might see problems as obstacles that you need to move around or get rid of, and you might be really analytical in the way you do it. We are normally trained and we normally have a bias for how we approach them. But the people that are really good at solving problems are the ones that sort of don't shy away from them. They go, well, problems are both an obstacle and they're an opportunity. How do I leverage both? So it is a really simple way of starting to approach every problem from the widest possible lens. And in the book, the first section of the book is all about widening your perspective. And I've got a 9-point method, a 9-point scale in the book, which shows you there's 9 sort of different perspectives you can have around problems. Find out which one you're strongest, you gravitate to strongly, and then have a look at the opposite and say, oh, now why don't I do that? And how could I perhaps think about that a little differently in the next time I do it? So it'll take you 10 minutes and you just go through those 9 points and go, where am I really heavily on one end? And what can I do to perhaps think about from the other end? So that's one thing. Oh, and by the way, the book is available for free for people on the website until it's ready for sale, which is on the 3rd of March. So anyone can get it. It's one click away on the website.
That is just so generous, and I'll be sharing the link for that in the show notes. So that's just incredible, and I can honestly say it's a great book.
Oh, thank you. So first step, widen your perspective. It takes 10 minutes, and then you're consciously aware of where your bias is, and you can start shifting and opening up how you see problems, because how you see them is how you respond to them. Yeah. And so immediately you'll double your capacity to solve them. So the second thing you can do, which is a little bit more tricky, but it has about 100 times more benefit, and that is finding those limiting beliefs that you have and switching them out. Now, everyone has them. Now, beliefs are like those mini programs that run in your mind to make shortcuts of how we live life. Now, when it comes to solving problems, there's some really big beliefs that you need to have that are healthy and they're enabling. In the book, I have one example, and it's a really common one, where people who have had early experiences in their career of being let down by other people, they might have delegated something to someone and they've really screwed it up, or they've been let down by someone helping them, and all of a sudden they form this little belief, this mini program in their mind to say, working with other people is unsafe. And so what they do, they choose to work a lot on their own. So they'll take things on themselves. And as you progress in your career, the more you do that, the more work you take on, the more hours you work, the more stress you have, and the worse your family life is, and the worse your results are. But you don't realize why. You just think, I just don't like working with other people. You know what? It's actually a choice. And it's a choice that's made by a belief that was put there ages ago to try and make you feel safe. And as soon as you can start realizing that these beliefs you have actually can be changed, you are not who you are. Who you are is not what you do. Who you are can be changed. And unpacking these beliefs and switching them out helps you immeasurably. And there's a 3-step process for that in the book that makes it a lot easier to get rid of old limiting beliefs. And I think those 2 things alone will make people feel like they want to solve problems again and make it so much easier when they do.
Yes, and we love to make it easy for people. We love easy. I think when we can make sense of, exactly what we're doing and why we're not doing something, then we can get curious about how we can solve that problem. So
yeah, it's interesting you mentioned we're curious, because it's super important to have a curious mindset. And there's a chapter in the book called Judgment Junkie, which is that part of your mind, that sort of monkey on your shoulder that says, you know what, you're not good enough. Don't try this because you'll screw it up. And if you do, everyone will laugh at you and your career will suck. That judgment part of our mind is there to kind of help protect us a little bit, but left unchecked, it can actually be a massive self-sabotaging device. And so judgment as a thought process in your mind doesn't have an outcome. It's just bad. This is bad, this is bad, or this is not safe. It stops you. It's designed to stop. Whereas curiosity, if you're curious about something, it's a question, and your mind then goes into problem solving mode. Oh, how do I do that? Why is this way? And so being aware of how judgmental your mind is and stopping it and going, right, the opposite is curiosity. Well, why is this? I won't judge it. I'll just be curious. All of a sudden, if you just do that one thing, your world of opportunity to solve problems opens up immeasurably.
I love it. Thank you, Craig. This chat has been incredible. And as I said before, I'll be sharing the links in terms of how you can get in contact with Craig and also how you can download the book until the 3rd of March. And that's when it hits the shelves and you can grab a hard copy if you're like me and you love hard copy books. So, but I've also got a soft copy, which is awesome. So, Craig, thank you so much for being so generous in what you've shared and for being part of Leading You today.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Julie. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks.